I went to yeah,
go
Bring a
ahead.
deck in.
I went to a baby shower on Saturday, all day, so it was an all-day long thing. And as I'm packing my little purse, I thought, I bet we're gonna play the dice game, and I bet nobody's gonna have dice. So I threw 6 die into my purse, and I got there, and sure enough, hello, how are you? And then, nobody had brought the die, even though they were gonna play the
So
game.
actually, if we can do a sound check with Bridget, that would be.
Okay. Bridget, are you able to unmute and just talk?
Turn that up.
Does the sound okay?
Give me 1 moment.
I will speak up as well.
It's okay on your end, I'm just taking a direction from the set.
Or just check?
Say hi one more time for me.
Thanks, Sterling.
Bridget, can you say hi one more time?
Oh,
Do it again.
say hello one more
Is it
time.
better?
Oh, there we go. That'll good enough. We are good and live. I'll go ahead.
Okay, we're good.
In the other room.
Bridget.
Okay, great. Yeah, no worries.
You're all set.
Okay. Then I will go ahead and call to order the Board of Directors meeting on April 27th for WLA, and we'll start with our roll call. Nancy?
Andy Folks,
Here.
Jason Livingston,
Here.
Julie Owens. Here. Sylvie Poole. Here. Natalie Silver. Here. Lily McCordall.
Here.
And Shannon Kelly is absent.
Yes. Okay, and we will move on to item 2, which is reading aloud the mission and vision. Shelby?
The mission of Woodbury Leadership Academy is to utilize leadership-based programs and strategies grounded in solid research, combined with the demonstrated success of core knowledge curriculum as a basis of a rigorous overall educational program that builds strong skills in math, reading, literature, writing, music, science, and technology. The vision of WLA is to be a school where students and graduates become exceptional leaders and are prepared to take on the academic and leadership challenges they will face in high school and beyond.
Thank you. And we will move on to item 3.1, which is approval of our meeting agenda for this evening.
Motion?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve tonight's meeting agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Item 3.2, approval of the March 23rd, 2022 meeting minutes.
So would we make a motion with an edit?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve March 23rd, 2022 meeting minutes with the edit that Julie Owens was also present at the meeting.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the March 23rd, 2022 meeting minutes with the edit of Julie O's being in attendance. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare this evening? Okay, and we'll move to number 5, which is public comment. There aren't any public comments this evening. And we will move to the board and board report for this evening, which will be very brief. The board wants to provide an update that there's been a complaint filed with WLA in regards to circumstances related to the removal of a board member last month. WLA is processing that information and has all the information provided by both the complainant and by the board, and there's nothing else to report until the complaint is thoroughly vetted. So until that process is complete, there isn't anything more that we can do at this time. So, thank you. And then we would love to hear from Bridget, our financial director, with the financial report for this evening.
Good evening.
Are you able to share, Bridget? Or no?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm just going to make you a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to share.
Yes. Okay. Can you guys see the financial statements for March?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So I will just do a brief overview of the March financials. We will just review the executive summary this evening unless there's any specific questions, because I know everyone has seen the full financials in the packet. So as of March 31st, the working budget showed 634 ADM. Actual, the March report, the latest March report I had, at 631, so I know that number is kind of a moving target. So right now, the working budget is still showing that 634. And that budgeted surplus we have in the general fund is just over $2,000. And as a reminder, we are spending spending down the community service fund balance a little bit by $36,000. So a projected cumulative fund balance of all funds is projected to be $1.9 million at the end of the fiscal year. As of the end of March, projected days of cash on hand was 109, which is well above that 45 days, which meets the minimum bond covenants. At the end of March, 75% of the year was complete. The balance sheet showed about $2 million in cash, which was up from $1.8 million in the previous month. The current year holdback balance is about $293,000, and again, that's MDE holds back about 10% of state aid, so we'll get paid that next fiscal year, primarily in the fall. Revenues compared to budget at the end of the reporting period, 75%, so very close, right on budget, so that's looking good. And expenditures were just a little bit under budget at 70%. And as I mentioned here, we are still doing a few working budget adjustments, as you can see in the statement of revenue and expenses. And next month, we'll have the revised budget for the board to accept. So that will be the plan for next month. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. If not, that will conclude the financial report for March.
I have a quick question. I don't know if this is a finance committee question, but when do we start looking at the budget for next year? Did that already happen? I don't even know.
Yes, we've been meeting with, we just had meetings actually this week with Kathy and Nancy, and so I know Kathy, you can speak to it a little bit more, but we are working through that, and we should have a preliminary budget to share next month.
Yeah, that's our plan. We've been working on it since January, but there's a fair amount of moving pieces, and but we'll have that ready for the May meeting. Yep.
All right, if there's not any other questions. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Bridget.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So next thing on the agenda would be to hear from the Elections Committee. We'd love to hear the process and the dates for the election.
Yes, so, wow, we just started zooming through our agenda. It came up so fast. So Shannon's not here, but I've been kind of leading the head on this, and then Timber in the office has been helping. We just came up with the flyer, and a couple of you were able to look over it. And this has gone out to teachers for them to send out in their newsletters, and I can kind of go through some of the details. Nancy already found a little bit of an edit, so I think I'll probably need to adjust and just send out again, probably. So there's a little catch for hopefully getting people to nominate themselves. I'm not sure if everybody has a copy of it. And then it just has the open seats that are available, and it looks like we have opens for each of them. And then Nancy saw that it says June to June. Should it be July to June?
We're seated in June.
So then I think it's okay. It's just the second one. The community member seat doesn't have the second June. But I think it's
What are the open seats?
parent, community, and teacher. So we
Yeah, but
want
who is it, Jolene?
Jolene, Hope and Community, and the appointed one that Jason was in.
Okay.
And then I decided to include some just like parameters for expectations for board members so that people kind of know what is needed to become a member, and then just the self-nomination form and some key dates. So this falls really closer to last year. We're announcing our call to nominations now, so for anybody listening, nominations are open, and then we'll be taking self-nominations through May 13th. And then at that point, we'll kind of get the election all set up online, and then voting will take place online from May 23rd to May 27th. And so eligible voters, parents and teachers will get an email from Election Runner, and they'll be able to vote online through May 27th at 4:30 p.m. And then we'll announce those results in June at our regular meeting. Other than that, I can answer any questions.
Questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, good job.
Thank you.
So you can have it go out in teacher letters tomorrow, and then I will, we can send it out as a board as well. So that way it goes out a couple times.
Sending it out?
Oh, you do already?
Any
Perfect.
other way than that? You were just emailing?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
So yes, and then teachers will send it out.
Okay, so you've already done that?
Yes,
Okay.
Andy and Timbra should be on it.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, well, let us know if there's any help that you need as you work through the process.
I've been checking in with Jolene on
Okay.
little things here and
Okay.
there, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, Bruce, I see that you're online, and I think we are ready for some guidance and to work through the strategic planning process.
Are you able to hear everybody, Bruce? I don't know if
No.
it's kind of challenging. Okay. I'm wondering, because it's my computer microphone.
Do we want to put this by you?
I don't know if that would help.
It's my computer, so and maybe if we put it like on a chair.
Do you want to move it?
Bruce, you're muted. Do you want to tell us how this volume is for you?
Yeah, I felt like he heard us pretty well.
The volume's fine for me for what we're doing right now. I'm not sure how soon we'll start the planning, but you're still doing board work, correct?
Nope, we're ready for you now.
For you.
Okay, all right, great,
Let's try.
great. How's the volume on your end? Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Great. And Kathy, how many bodies do we have in the room this evening?
We have 6 board members, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 board members. We have 2 community members, myself
Kathy,
and Nancy.
you have the playing cards and they are ready to go, correct?
Yeah, you bet.
Careful.
Yeah.
All right.
Kathy, do you have the playing cards ready to go? Great. And how many people do we have tonight?
Okay.
We have 6 plus 2 plus 2.
Yeah, then 2 groups of 3, and we'll get people started. If you want to hand out cards, I will start walking people through the packet. Mandy, could you give me screen sharing permission?
Yes.
Thanks.
Natalie, can you?
How many do you want, like 5 cards?
Well, we need, each person needs a card. If you have 6 people, hand out 3 aces and 3 kings, and let people work in small groups.
What?
Sorry.
Or we could just pick our groups.
Can we just pick a group?
No, it's okay.
Or 3
It's okay.
reds and
It's
3
okay.
blacks. We just
Okay.
need to be able to break people out into small groups. Thanks for the technology assistance. All right. Very good. Everybody, you have this packet with you, but I want to just work through this very quickly and kind of remind you where we are. We can sort out any questions you have prior to get rolling, and then we will complete your planning this evening. To start this thing, we put some surveys together, and we sent them off to an employee group, a community group, and a student group. And I believe all of you have seen these, so I'll go through them very briefly, and we can stop if you have any questions. We asked 2 questions, so we had parallel questioning strategies in all of these surveys. What 2 things are working well, what 2 things need to be improved. You can see we had 24 employees come back. They said the teachers and staff, communication, and family support, those were the 3 trends that showed up in their stuff, and I named those trends, but that's what they were. And there were 3 things that allegedly need more attention, in their opinion: competitive pay, support for teachers, and curriculum. The white bullets underneath the bold items are snippets of conversation that came up in the survey. I wanted to put it in there so you can kind of get a handle. We also said, where do you see Leadership Academy in 5 years? Staff said, we think that there could be pre-K and high school expansion and make us a destination school. We put up the question, what other programs, activities, facilities, and services might benefit? And they said sports and clubs, band and music. On 3 and 4, you have community session results. We had 98 folks get to that survey. And they also identified teachers and staff. While doing planning with multiple school districts over the last 20 years, employees, teachers, and staff don't always come forward in the community and parent survey as an asset. It was the strongest trend within your answers here. They also believe there's a lot of quality communication from staff, very timely. They view the curriculum is okay. They believe that the parent and community members believe that the that the curriculum is working as it is. They believe that lunch, overall communication, and bullying ought to be addressed as improvements. The two biggest trends under the 5-year question were high school expansion, extracurricular, and sports. And you see some parallel answers here with the employee results on the prior 2 pages. You see sports clubs, band, music, and hot lunches, although I'm not sure that it's the 4th lowest trend here. You know, I mean, the sports and clubs and band and music were much higher than beliefs. We finally asked students, we had 145, and they also said that we think teachers and staff are really doing a job here at Carrier. Students believe the curriculum is okay, that they're getting what they need, and the academic, that particular state about the great curriculum and enjoying the academics and lessons, that was really what I to be. Students also identified friendships and have very good students, which is cool. Students would like to see lunch and playground and activities improve. They also would see high school expansion. And I think best school is kind of like a destination school in the prior survey, clubs and sports. They also would like to see clubs and sports as a service and hot lunch. The numbers at the top of each of those summaries identify the number of people that responded. I'll also tell you that you didn't have anyone go off or go rogue in the survey. Under the thin cover of anonymity, people occasionally lash out and they'll start throwing rocks at somebody else or some other department or something that they're unhappy with because, you know, it's an anonymous survey. Although people were passionate about seeing improvements, they identified improvements without blaming anybody who's working there now or working on the board too. So I know you've had some hot times recently, you've got a lot of things you want to work on, but the people that went to the survey were professional in their responses, which I think is real gratifying. Before we go any further, could I answer any questions about the survey portion of the project or those results?
I don't think so.
People at the Leadership Academy understand that if you don't ask questions, it goes faster. Is that how it works? All right. We have some results here from the staff session. We asked them to do 2 things when they got together. We had them identify their thoughts about vision. So rather than have them write a paragraph, we had them identify the items that would go into a vision. And a vision describes an ideal future. It's where we're trying to go. They also identified, most importantly for you and most importantly for this session this evening, here are the things that they think need more time and more attention in order to bring the school up to matching the vision. So you can see what they've got here. You see the number of responses and the rank. The community session, same thing. They said, look, this is kind of our thoughts about, now you already have a vision statement, but we asked them what they thought. And most importantly, again, for your work and your work this evening, they said, these are the things that we think need to come to the front burner. In family, on page 10, we had 105 students go to the survey after. They touched up the vision. It's a little operational, but they got very specific at the bottom about the things that they think need to come to the front burner. So, before we go any further, are there any questions about how those sessions were conducted or how we picked up the results?
So the sessions were different from surveys.
One more time, please.
They're two separate things, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is interesting to see.
We actually had, virtual sessions, and people got into small groups, identified their items. We then built a survey and sent it back, and then people identified they were able to prioritize the items, all the possibilities in the survey. So the first set of surveys were pretty anonymous. The in-session, or the Zoom sessions were really face-to-face with everybody. Any other questions before we start to move?
Bruce, can you hear me okay? Okay, Jason was noticing that there's some different things that come up in the second set of surveys as compared to the first set. Is that pretty common? Do you see that
Yes.
in other schools?
Yeah, and here's why. When we do the original survey, I'm sitting at home and I get a survey and I kind of identify what I think is important. When I get to the planning session, I get broken out into a group with 3, 4, or 5 other people, and we get into a way deeper discussion. And so some of the things that I thought were priorities, I find out we're doing. I might find out that we tried them and they didn't work. Or I might get validated for my thoughts. There's more interaction and more progressive, and not trying to make that a political term, obviously, more mojo going on in those small groups at a much deeper level. And that's why the survey starts the project. Those Zoom sessions, though, really are the meat of it, because people are really in there talking and debating and discussing and comparing histories to identify those windows. To identify those items. Then they get a chance to vote on them at the very end. Does that make sense? Okay. Time for more questions if there are any prior to getting into the real work tonight. Anything else? All right. I wanted to show you very quickly, again, examples of vision and mission. We're not doing vision this evening because you've got one that's there that you believe in. Vision is where you're trying to go, who we want to be. Priorities are front burner items. And I bring you Owatanas because it's a really, really good district, a very thoughtful, kind of a measure twice, cut once. Let's make sure that what we're doing is integrated within the community and within business, and it serves every kid's need. They said these are their priorities. Now, they've got detailed plans for every one of these, multiple goals under each one of these, but by identifying the priorities, they're able to get people on the same page as to what the 4 big pillars are. We are about to use this worksheet that you have here on page 12, and we're going to ask you to do step 2. So, Kathy, do people have playing cards right now?
Yep.
Great. So you're going to break into smaller groups, and you're going to identify the items in step 2, the items that you really think need to become priorities. And again, you're going to have lots of other work. Let me run down the end of the packet and show you kind of what that would look like in context. When we're done this evening, you're going to have your priorities in the implementing column. So the first thing you will do in a board meeting under old business is talk about progress on each of those priorities, because they were important enough for you to select them this evening at the culmination of the plan. The middle column and the red column are potential new business. They're items that you want to be looking into. They're not anywhere near as important as the implementing priorities, but they're things that you need to stay on top of. We'll fill out this whole form by the time we're done this evening. But right now, essentially, you're identifying the things that you want to be bringing back each meeting and talking about how the school's doing on it. So when you get into small groups, I'd encourage you to look at the original surveys and to look at those vision and priority results from the other groups to get the conversation started. But we're going to give you about half an hour here and ask you to fill out step 2. So in your small groups, you'll come up with your best guesses about what the priorities ought to be for the school moving into the future. And we will then, Kathy will set up a voting exercise for you all, and we'll be able to actually have you agree on which ones you're going to pull forward as priorities this evening. A priority is something that's going to get a little more time, a little more energy, a little more money, a little more resource, and it's more important than other things. You've got many, many things to pick from as priorities, but let's see if we can get it down to 4, 5, or 6 items that really will clearly move you to that vision as quickly as possible. Are there any questions prior to starting this exercise?
Yes, Bruce, I'm confused. We have our vision statement. We're not writing a new vision on page 12.
We're skipping step 1.
Okay, so we're using our current vision to go right to step 2. Thank you.
Anything I can add to that, Kathy?
No?
Okay, very good. Then I'll stay online. I'll be waiting to speak with individuals or groups if you have a question. But please break out, stay caffeinated, crank through step 2 on that worksheet, and we will make some progress here.
Do we need the cards for anything?
We didn't follow directions, so.
So you would have more black cards than red.
Kathy, in order to keep this an open public meeting, are there 2 places in that room that everybody can go to, like the first group and the second group?
Yep.
Great.
Do we need to worry about the microphone at all? Or just, it'll catch?
First, people aren't going to be able to hear our small conversations.
Was there a question?
People won't be able to hear our small breakout group conversations. Does that matter?
In a perfect world, we'd be able to do it. What they are going to be able to see in about 25 minutes is each group posting their thoughts and to see you all vote. That'll be incredibly public, and that's the most important part of the evening we're doing tonight. So I'm excited for them to see that.
Okay.
So, should we just put the
Find your
microphone in the
partners
middle
and have at it,
and they'll
everyone.
overhear what they overhear?
I have black cards.
I have an equal number.
Okay.
Red.
I have more black. So, we're together? Okay. Okay. I'll come over by Jason.
And I'll join this group.
Just want all these teachers together.
That's a good idea. I'll just be short.
Kathy, is there anything else I can do to help people get started?
No, I think we're okay. I would just, I would like to say a couple of things. First of all, kudos to the board, former board members. Over the past 3 years, we have achieved our 4 strategic planning goals from 3 years ago when we did this, and that's a pretty big deal. We're still really working on developing a leadership program, so that's the least developed of those 4. Then I'd also like to give kudos to, I know it's a little uncomfortable here, but to Ryan Patrick for starting us down this lane of getting a new and fresh strategic plan, as well as really reaching out to our stakeholders, staff, and community members and students for how they want their school to be designed or whatever. So kudos to
Excellent.
a lot of people as we move this new chapter here.
Very good. Thanks, Kathy.
Yep.
I don't have a copy. What? She's, yeah. We didn't want all the teachers together. So.
All right. So you guys know our mission, right? So knowing what all these people have said on these things, we need to do 4 to 6 years.
And they are just priorities that were stated in these surveys. Just from these surveys, nothing else.
But I think I took notes on
came up once. Clubs and sports came up 3 times, lunch came up 3 times. Bullying and leadership, student stuff came up twice. Pre-K-12 came up twice. I don't know, my tally kind of hinges.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I would say in no order, our stakeholders want us to look at clubs and sports.
For sure.
Bullying, leadership. K-12, those are the things that have 3 votes.
Bullying and leadership are 2 different.
Other types, but it's kind
But
of
you
like
lumped it.
student behaviors.
Okay.
The system like that. And then stuff that came up twice. Everything else came up once. You guys take a little look
Yeah.
at this, see if you think those should be our 4 to 6 things. Not. And then there's a difference between college and K-12.
So is this based on how we feel about it? And what are we basing this on?
Bruce?
Yes.
So our question is, on our group, we have 4 things, well, one of them's pre-K-12 programming. And another one's hot lunch. There's a world of difference there.
Yes.
But are we supposed to be digesting these surveys and saying what we think? Or should we be kind of more tallying them and saying these are what our stakeholders think?
Kathy, that's a great question. Can the whole group hear me right now?
Yeah.
Great. All of the work prior to this point is advisory. The survey results, the Zoom session survey results, these are people's best guesses and beliefs. It's advisory. You are decision makers. So if, for example, if you believe that one priority should be keeping every second paycheck from Kathy and investing it in lotto proceeds to search for a windfall for funding, that could be a priority, even though it was not mentioned in there. I guess I wouldn't recommend that, but you're using that word to guide your thinking in this discussion, and you'll pull forward the items that are the most important. They could be duplications, they could be combinations, and they could be something new. None of the other results said strong fiscal stewardship. Perhaps strong fiscal stewardship becomes one of your priorities. I don't know. Is that enough to get you going?
Yeah, it is. So let's
Thank you.
set this aside and what do you think are, let's start there. Hot lunch is going to be an easy one. We don't have to have a strategic plan to just go on the list and let's get it. But did you answer any of these surveys?
I don't know.
I gotta say 3 or 4, we want to do these things within 5 years.
Looking at staff results. I think I got communication. I don't think that's always there. Internal. Salaries. More support. And curriculum. It's had focused so much on this one curriculum. And we just.
Well, I don't think my number 1 is listed here under the staff. I would like to see WLA be that destination school that people want to go to because it's a respected school in the community. Gaining that core knowledge distinction award, which is probably the top nugget that I think is something that we should be striving for, to become that destination school. Oh, did they both win this year? Because East Ridge is usually not. So that is probably the number one thing. Looking on this list, I would like to see more respectful students as well. All students. I have issue with that. And I feel like, well, not I don't, but I feel like that's,
It's an accountability.
and we, yes. And then sisters.
Well, mine was
Yeah, I did. Who wasn't done this weekend?
What is your son doing? Okay.
Yeah, he's very good at this.
Just because we're good at it doesn't mean we take our eye off at all.
He was working on it but then because of the new levels of through the first two levels, and then the person and teacher stuff who were like, I don't want to say old, but approved the policy.
It's very interesting.
So they gave him 90 days time as well, and he had no problem because when we were Spain,
Yes.
so it was very easy for us to do like a job and so that's what we do.
Right.
And everything's in English. But the whole company is and it's
That's got one group.
to anybody who
Teachers present for second grade. Kylie was there.
so they have to go.
The Zoom link, the Zoom link.
So their perspective is here in the second grade. Counted for 5 teachers.
And their participation board activities. I just feel like I shouldn't go.
We do have
Your son just said everyone's super.
one of my strategies or reasons for doing that is to get more out to team teacher leader, maybe Jacob,
Google Translate.
so that they can then take that message back. Here's what our teachers is making decisions. These are classes that we must do on the test. That's just
But as far as,
surprised it's like they thought they'd be asking her questions.
One of the things that I asked was to talk about having I didn't, I'm not asking her, but that was one thing that I saw was
Most districts are going to that, they're just saying, get 600 or 700 towards whatever. When I'm 17 or 2 years ago.
That's different.
That was the same.
How many kids is that?
one of my coaching classes years ago.
Yeah.
Where are the rest?
Just starting to talk about that. And I thought it was a really interesting concept. Why such different
When I was in number 1, I would say, maintain finances.
His friend. And then the reason is in California, so teachers worries about what is that. Kind of those programs
something like that.
I don't know if I'm understanding what you're saying.
So, stay strong with them.
Continued fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, not,
Maintain fiscal responsibility.
maintain a quality facility and not shortchanging programs or
all kids to pay attention, I want all kids to follow rules. That whole time I was there, not one grumble, not one yell, not one cuss, no one running, shirts were tucked in, no questions asked. You did what you were told.
Exactly.
End of story.
Exactly. And that's what
Yeah.
I don't want to hear. Well, they're all on vacation.
No, no. Expectations you rise to.
Destinations will see Facebook destination. Apps.
That's right.
You approach destination and reality. I mean, everything was.
True.
We try to do it's like mind your business when you're driving by your town. They're paying their taxes and they have 24-hour security. And they'll look for the best thing. Oh, they've done a lot too.
Baby's there. It's moms and rather than her first appointment and then she had second. So then we cover distinction, destinations, respectful students. Salaries, support. So what you guys have mentioned, sustain on, what does that mean?
Being prepared for those. Well, and that goes into that pre-K or 12 too, doesn't it? Sustainable growth is that. So.
My vote to
Agreed. 100%.
once the schools go up,
And then we have like that,
the way it was just there. And like just have to organize visual sections.
so, like the only time well, like this
So I think sustainable.
you know, like I got slow to take. It slowed down the graduation.
Where to go with?
And the only thing about the house is
What did we just say?
and for, all the classes.
Because it needs to sustain.
Job gonna be in person.
Once it's full, it's just built
Okay,
ready.
okay. That would be good. Maybe just 3 days.
Right.
So plan for.
Focused, can you put focused in there? Like focused growth? Focused plan.
Which has an example. 23, 24. To be determined. Grade schools.
I know you do.
I don't know if you want to say the next jump, but questioning or, because then they'll say, okay, 2 years, now the high school's graduating. Well, no, we need another study if that needs to come or not. Right.
What the system that, what the other schools uses. They can pull up, you know, their kids.
No.
Where they're at.
Kathy, are people doing the writing at this point?
What?
On the posters?
We're writing on these. Do you want us to write on the big paper?
Well, when the groups are at closure, let's have them write on the big paper. Then we can aim the camera at that and talk through those before people vote. Would that work?
Yep, we're
Great,
we're
thank
about
you.
ready. We got 3 good goals. You guys close to the yellow paper?
We've got it.
Okay.
We
We were definitely.
It's a plan for these growth. None of my colleagues just turned into a bad.
So there's a lot
Yep.
of training.
Yes, no, I know. But it comes from, for technology.
How about that system a little bit more dated and clunky, you know, than we have here?
Not really,
No.
we just don't use it.
Okay.
Justin doesn't like it.
These are all good words and no
No,
one.
no, no.
These three.
Sounds good.
That's good printing.
Julie does.
They didn't want, they didn't want to get like.
Your phone is on the floor.
No, I did not know that.
Don't want you to roll over it.
Turn it off so it doesn't ring.
Whatever it is, 20 grand and have someone 30 grand, and someone come in, help us implement it. It's gonna save us this many hours, and that's real. It's real.
The thing is, right now, like, I'm registration back in. I
I'm just saying, like, it's not.
And it's air, because I'm on, well, I'm still kind of. But it's kind of. It's dead.
You actually may not.
Because we have some staff as well, like you said. Sort of trying to accomplish the ratios for But really,
Stuff you probably can't hire volunteers to do, because it's right now.
plus, to be quite honest, it's very complicated. It's pretty easy to measure. This is what goes into the margin for the funding. So when there's errors, I can't tell you much time spent on errors.
See, but then I think that's what someone needs to do is say, how much time are we spending on all these activities that could be streamlined if we spend whatever. I don't know what it is, 50 grand, 100 grand. Have somebody come in here and really train and implement.
And I just like the one. We'll figure it out now. We did this at Nova before. We split operations and education. And then somebody else who was in charge of facilities. Somebody else who was in charge of the teachers.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because this person has to be business. It has to be specialty. You know, it doesn't have to be anything. And should be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an educator in our house, and he's the business person, and we cannot switch parents. It does not compute.
I think that makes sense, because then that person is getting
Kathy and Mandy, have both groups written their lists?
kind of stuff too.
Not yet.
Not yet,
Interesting.
but just about.
Okay. Thank you. Let me know when that's done.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a business, like manager.
Well, we don't have a business manager here, but Brenda, no, Brenda is celebrating there. She's not here. She's not physically here. Really wants to do this. So. is a plan, this is a budget, that were already in the budget. So it wasn't like we had extras generated. Yeah. It's a tough one. It's hard to define something as a.
It'd be a lot of work.
It can be a lot of work. And we don't have our existing population to really go at. Right, because they're looking at what we call minorities, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
It's fortunate that, you know, we're lucky to have this population that we do. And it's, yeah. You know, that's,
I know. I'm very nervous about that. I'd like to get out and do marketing.
That's what I think we need to do.
The definition of marketing is, my definition of marketing is different. My definition of marketing is.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, it's Woodbury basketball. I send all the information.
Okay, Bruce, we've got one group done and the other one is almost done. Just a couple
All right, very
minutes.
good.
Couple minutes.
Thanks.
you got Heidi to read it to Judy and the students. Except I have to communicate with one. She doesn't want that person. I think he's too comfortable with me. Those your comfy after work shoes.
Yeah.
I've got some slippers in my room. They're not totally slipper looking.
They're like recovery sandals, running sandals, and they're the best shoes I have ever used. So, my babes.
Say, Kathy?
Yeah.
What would, you know, there are two ways we could do this part to help those that are following the session virtually. We could take the camera and show those big sheets to show what's on them, or we could take the sheets and hold them up in front of the camera that we're using now.
Okay.
But I'd like,
Do we have anybody watching?
Actually, I just got a text from Diane saying she can't hear anything, and she's struggling. She just sent it, I just read it. But I said, it's okay, you'll hear when it's important, is what we were told.
So I think I'll hold the sheets up, because I don't want to do all these wires. So
that makes a lot of sense. Great, if you'll, tell me when you're ready to do that, and we'll
Ready.
move this thing along. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
When wonder if she couldn't hear because we were kind of over at the sheets, not really talking. Well, look at you.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy, that's good. Say, Mandy and Kathy, could you also grab a marker and draw horizontal lines, so when people put their dots up there, we'll know which ones they're on for sure? Thanks. And then, and thank you for zooming that in. And then I'm going to ask Mandy to read the results on both sheets, and then we'll talk through the voting process. Thanks for who's moving the camera there, much appreciated.
Okay.
Cracker Jack video work there. And could you, Mandy, can you slide those posters just a little bit closer to the table?
Yes.
If you could, yeah, they're not quite readable, and there's a little bit of light reflection. So if you could move that lunch table closer to the meeting table, I think we'd be good.
Do you want it closer?
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
I mean,
So, Mandy, rather than have you do it, who was in the group that wrote the blue on the left? What group did that?
That was our group, and I think Natalie was gonna be our spokesperson.
Yeah, Natalie, could you work us through that list, please?
Yes, most definitely.
Read them off and then tell us the backstory discussion.
Yes.
Say Jolene or Julie. Gotcha.
So I'll kind of read what we wrote, and then my team can jump in where they want to add some more details. So we didn't order these in any specific priority. We just kind of wrote down our biggest ideas, so they're not ranked or anything like that. So for number one, we have support, recognition, and satisfaction of staff. And then some bullets we had under that meant like training for staff, creating a strong culture for paras as well as teachers, and then making sure our compensation is aligned with where it should be at.
Good.
And then for number two, did we do anything else to that? For number two, we had a safe, healthy, and secure learning environment that celebrates our diversity. And we kind of included hot lunches into that program or into that priority just as like a healthy environment, because students, and I've seen this in my classroom too, is students need nutrition to be able to learn and to be a leader, so that kind of aligns with our vision as well. And then another bullet we had was clear bullying procedures, so just making sure that, going back to the safe and secure learning environment, that students, know what's expected or what they need to do, teachers know what they need to do, administration knows what they need to do, and it's clear to everyone, parents as well. Anything to add to two? No, you guys just let me go for it, okay. Number three, we have strong academic achievement. So this one was kind of broad, but we kind of lumped in, that meant like test scores, making sure we're scoring where we want to be at. Consistent curriculum, we've had quite a few changes in the last few years, so just making sure we really nail down where we want to be at with that and making sure we stick with it and really give everything a good hard try. And then making sure we have clear leadership programming, which goes back to our old strategic planning role. That was our number three. Okay. Number four, we had sustainable growth, and this we kind of just kept coming up with different pieces that we wanted to include with this. So fiscally responsible growth, just making sure we're growing with what we can financially. Operationally sound growth, just making sure we have the right people in the right positions, and that even can tie into some of these other pieces as well for bullying procedures and supporting staff. So just making sure we're really strong operationally. And then sustainable growth includes also the pre-K high school expansion, and just making sure we don't jump into that too soon, but we're also still testing the waters with both of those and making steps towards that if that is where we want to go in the future. Okay. And number five, we had community building. We felt like we saw this a lot throughout all the sessions and the surveys, was just people really interested in clubs and activities, and building up our student community and our parent community, including, we added cultural fair as well, which can celebrate our diversity. And then a big one we added right at the end was marketing. So we threw it under community building because we thought it could be lumped in there, but obviously that relates to a lot of these as well. we all kind of echoed each other that we feel like that's a big, I don't know, blind spot or something we're missing. Just people don't necessarily know about us or know what's so amazing about our school. So those are our priorities.
Did anybody from the other group have any questions of your group about what they wrote or why it's up there?
Thoughts, feedback?
I think it looks good.
Well done. Very nice.
Okay. Thanks. Natalie, who could we get from the other group to work us through the other three? They're not quite as visible, but somebody could read us and guide us through.
Looks like Jolene's gonna do it.
Thank you.
I'll move it over so you can see. Not to cover up their wonderful work, but.
Thanks, Jolene.
So we may have went about this maybe a little bit differently, but we said our first thing was to have a destination school, meaning the core knowledge school of distinction. We're trying to model it after the Fort Collins School. Have a respected school in the area. Number two, we would pre-K through 12 focused planned growth. So we want to plan for that growth, start at the bottom, and grow bigger, but make sure that it's focused and not just jumping in. For instance, a pre-K starting 2023 to 24, with the high schools starting with just one grade level at a time, to potentially beginning during the 24-25 school year. And the last thing we talked about was to exercise fiscal responsibility while maintaining quality facilities, ensuring competitive staff pay, and appropriating the necessary instructional and organizational supplies.
All right, thank you, thank you. Could you actually take your list and stick it down so it sits below the other list? Not to indicate level of importance or preference. All right, thanks.
Yep.
So what you're about to do now is Kathy's going to give you each 3 adhesive sticky dots, and you're going to walk up and vote. And if you really like community building, you could put all 3 dots on that one. Or you could put 2 on the pre-K-12 focus and 1 on strong academic achievement, or you could put 1, 1, 1. The only thing you cannot do is pull anybody else's dots off and reapply them if you think they're in the wrong place, okay?
Bruce, do
But
you
what
want?
you're about to do is figure out which of these are the ones that move forward and in what order. So you're about to vote with those 3 dots. So the first one is support, recognition, satisfaction of staff. The second one is safe, healthy, and secure learning environment. The third is strong academic achievement. The fourth is sustainable growth. The fifth is community building. The next one then is destination school. Now there's another one that says pre-K-12 focus. Is that the same thing as sustainable growth people or not?
I think so.
Yep.
Is that separate?
Same.
Same.
Okay, so if we have 4 on the top and 2 on the bottom, we'll combine those dots. And then we also have the last one for fiscal responsibility, correct? What you're doing now is voting for a priority. You're not voting how to do it. So for example, under support, recognition, and satisfaction of staff, there's training, there's culture, there's compensation. We're going to use a little different technique to have you figure out the what, or the how, I should say. But for right now, you're voting on the what you want to spend time on, then we'll build in the detail. So I'm going to ask you if you're ready to vote. If not, we'll have some discussion of these items or the voting. But when you're ready, we'll get after it. Are there any questions about the voting procedure?
Yeah, do we want different colors for first, second, third choice, or is this just number of dots?
We don't want to do that or have anybody get sort of hyper-identified. We need to see the dots go up there and then figure out what your priorities are and in what order.
Do we put any numbers like our 1, 2, and 3 on the dots, or is it just 3 dots wherever we want to put them?
You take 3 dots and put all 3 on 1, 2 on 1, or 1 on 1.
Let's do it.
But you got to hurry up all the dots and you can't move anybody else's.
Okay, I'm just gonna give everybody
So people right now should be getting a strip of 3 dots each and only 3, correct?
So only put 3.
Yeah.
Everybody go.
I'm sorry, Kathy, how many people did you say are in the room right now? 6?
We've got 6 board members, myself and Nancy, and we've got 2 community members.
Okay, and so our board members are voting, and is administration voting?
Yes. Do you not want me to vote?
Thank you.
No, I think you get to vote.
I get
No,
to
no, no,
vote.
I wanted to make sure the board's ready with that. I think that
Okay.
makes a lot of sense to me.
Easy. I think some of them are.
A lot of them are the same.
Yeah, they're similar ideas. I think.
Kathy, when the voting's done, I'd like to give everybody a 10-minute break, and if you and I could work on the screen here. I'm going to take some notes, I'm going to have you read some pictures, and take some notes to create the final document, all right?
No.
She just went to the bathroom, Bruce, but when she gets back, then yes, we will take a break.
Very good.
You just took one out.
Apply it.
I finished strategic planning up on the eastern end of the Iron Range one, so we worked over 2 evenings. And in the intervening evening, or the intervening day, people went off to Pomida and bought their own dots.
Brought their own dice.
Someone can be quick. So think like a puzzle.
I took Kathy's off.
And is everybody voted?
Yes. Yes.
Natalie, could you grab a marker and just put a big number by each one that tells us how many dots there are?
Yes.
And I'm going to work with you on the screen here to do some typing on mine.
Oh, okay. I got nominated.
Which was the one we were combining? That one and this one, I think. So 4 and 2. So I think that one's a 6.
So sustainable growth is the top rated one, right?
Yeah, because we combined that one. And then I feel like this one, exercise fiscal responsibility.
Do you think? Or
I thought it almost went into this. Next year, like, I thought it almost even went into sustainable growth. Fiscal
Hers is
responsibility.
like consider staff pay, necessary instructional.
It kind of is split among some of these.
Yeah.
And what's the one that has 4 on it?
So this one is destination school. So core knowledge, school of distinction, respected school in the area. But we don't, this one.
And what's the next, so I've got one with 6 votes, one with 4 votes.
So
And what's our next?
So we have, the one with 6 is sustainable growth, then one with
Right.
4 is destination school, and then the other 4 is the safe, healthy, and secure learning environment that celebrates our diversity. I feel like this even goes with this.
Yeah, I agree.
And this, actually.
So Bruce, I'd like to explain something, which I probably should have explained to the whole group, because I don't know that everybody knows this, but Fort Collins is one of the nation's core knowledge schools of distinction. And a fair amount of our staff and folks have been down there to visit over the past 5 years. And it's impressive. Kids are respectful, academics are wonderful, you're not going to have any bullying, people, even the young kids greet visitors in the building, very respectfully, welcome to our school, and so forth. It's just a wonderful school, and that's kind of been our goal. So when I look at this one, which is safe, healthy,
Kathy?
yeah,
Kathy?
yeah.
I've typed in sustainable growth, I've typed in destination school, I've typed in safe, healthy, and secure learning environment. What's the next highest rated one via DOTS?
Well, I'm still going to cut you off, because this one, the safe, healthy school, really goes hand in hand with that destination school. That's what both groups are talking about, the same kind of school. So now what do you want to know?
Let me just fill that in here. And how many dots did that would get if you combine those two?
Say that again.
8.
It would be 8, so that would be our highest.
You combine those two, that'd be 8, Natalie said.
But then 6.
Very good, let me just take care of that. And then number 2 would be sustainable growth,
Yep,
correct?
yep.
And then the third one would be,
Well, this even kind of goes along with some of these. Like these two can be kind
Agreed.
Going to be a tie between, it's a three-way tie for third place then.
why don't you give me, just give them to me in any order.
Okay, so the first one would be strong academic achievement. Second one would be community building, including clubs and activities. And then the next one would be, it's kind of a long one, exercise fiscal responsibility while maintaining quality facilities, ensuring competitive staff pay, and appropriating the necessary instructional and organizational supplies.
Maintain fiscal responsibility, is that it?
In a nutshell, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not I'm developing the cover sheet for your final packet, so, I won't have all the detail on that. Again, Warren, you've got a 10-minute break while I build this thing here. And, so, Kathy, just for the sake of discussion this evening, I have these listed as the final priorities, okay? Destination school, safe, healthy, and secure learning environment, 8 votes, sustainable growth, 6 votes, strong academic achievement with 4, community building, clubs and activities with 4, and maintain fiscal responsibility. Is that enough detail just for the cover sheet?
Yep, yep.
Okay, great. I need to format just a couple of other things. We'll be back together in 5 minutes, and I'll grade the group for the rest of it.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheese are any different than, I just bought a box. I need a lot of stuff. I don't like it, 'cause I don't eat it.
Really, that covers. The way he put it together covers it.
of, I think we should accept actually staff.
Well, that's part of it. That's where the hot lunch comes in.
But yeah, it can definitely.
Because we had one that talked about that too.
Well, it's one of the important things. Absolutely. It's a quiet group tonight, though, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes Julie was talking about this kids running this thing and blah, blah, blah. I just shake my head and walk down the halls here sometimes, it's like, I did that, and others would beat me up. I did that. I was just Stevie Lee up. With the lead pencil.
When was the last time people visited?
I was the last one to go, just
Yeah.
before the shutdown.
That was 2 years ago.
March. impressive. It's very impressive.
Maybe I need to do one of those in that direction. As I had was just this summer.
What's their start? They start in, what was their growth like?
Yeah, I think they grew down. I think they actually started as a high school, and then they went down to K6, but I'm not sure. Anyway, they've been around for about 25 years now. It takes a while to get the bugs out. But things are different in Colorado, like the teachers don't have to be licensed, at least not in charter schools. It's just interesting, I think, because they'll have people teaching high school biology that don't have a teaching degree, but they're pretty good, yeah, they know biology. So they have just have a lot of flexibility with how they can staff. Class sizes are about 30, so every 2 classes,
Was it last night?
2 classes of 30 kids each,
Last night,
kindergarten up to
2 and 2. Oh, wait, who won?
No, they come
They have
back,
one pair that they
so
split,
now
Okay.
they can
they
share.
can
So you get the added
Oh,
staff,
really? Is that the wires like that?
30 with one teacher, and then you get a para for half the time.
Ended up down 3, we hit a 3.
Works really well for them.
Tie it, and then they somehow managed to
Works very well
lay out
for
in
them.
3 seconds.
Sad.
Sometimes.
It doesn't feel.
Well,
like you
Jolene
just-
and I would
it doesn't feel
argue
like
that it
much
doesn't matter what your
buzz about
demographic,
it.
it would be, what are your expectations?
Yeah.
You know, but-
You know, you
They've got
train
a-
them, you know. For leadership school, we've got leadership curriculum.
Climb
You
with
know.
the fan base right there.
But, I know, that does come up. right?
I'm a total fair weather Minnesota
And
fan.
you, yeah, and you have
On
enough
all
staff
sports,
to
where you
enforce.
just basketball.
And nobody
I-
turns a
I'm-
blind eye.
Seriously, if
Takes a lot of energy.
Babe
Kiddos don't
Nichols
walk down,
outdoor
like you do in
fishing
the beginning of
was
kindergarten, they
on,
don't
I
walk
would
down the
watch that
hallway
before I watch
correctly.
basketball
We go
game.
back and do it.
So what if it was wild?
If it was wild, I would stop everything.
And
And
twins?
he has a noise. He
Um,
really doesn't like.
Twins is kind of in between golf and.
I like when it's just games live, I don't
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
Yeah.
Because I do enjoy live baseball.
Yeah.
He doesn't come barreling in there when he wants to.
But Natalie, part of that sustainability and fiscal responsibility is, you know, I saw in here that some teachers are, well, we want 18 in our class.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we were
That's-
talking about that.
We didn't really do the same.
That's not possible, yeah. Yeah,
They make them really fun. They do a lot
You
of fun
don't
stuff.
have the-
They do give a lot of
the
effort to
money.
make them really
So-
fun to watch.
Yeah.
In between innings things and, yeah, they do a really good job. Their marketing is very good. Yeah, I agree.
And I think it is a solid.
So remember Nate? who
so when
played
you look
at
at those pay scales, you
Woodbury?
will see why.
So, he's on my record label.
Yeah.
And
Well, they have small class sizes.
Where's
just
the
like
name?
this is-
Dead Rock
is it-
Records.
it's- yeah,
I love it.
I think that's part of it.
It's a long story, well, it's a short story. In middle school,
I thought that was what it was.
my
last time.
dad's
Like
nickname
Stillwater
was Dead Rock.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Their day is longer, so they get paid more.
It was, his friends thought it was a funny
Yeah,
play on
and they have more
Livingstone.
days than we have.
Okay.
Like
I
a
like
half hour longer.
Oh, I like it a lot. That's fun.
That's where it came from.
I like that.
That's cute.
Share some of that information with the board.
Our first video is
so you guys
all
can
done.
See what other charters are
Send it when he
paying
finishes it.
teachers
Oh, for sure.
and how long their
We're
days
doing
are,
like
how
a
many
whole-
days they have, and some of these
And he's
things
been
are
touring.
pretty interesting.
Right?
Not right now, he lives in LA.
Okay.
He still works for the Opsals, our neighbors.
I didn't know that.
I got him a job with Chris.
That's funny. I didn't know that. I like the options.
He does web design.
Okay.
Don't you think part
But
of
we
that,
have a whole,
the
like,
culture thing is culture?
I'm in so deep.
We don't have full-on staff meetings. We don't, like, in person, like, the Zoom meeting is fun, but
It's
being in
fun
person
though. I get
is
emails
more.
like all the time. It was like,
I feel like
check out the
great,
dailies.
'cause I can walk anywhere in this
The
building
video
and
shoot, and I'm
don't
like,
hear
okay, this is
or see people
Yeah.
talking about other.
And then they're always like,
people. See what other districts.
okay, so here's what we're thinking for a script on this. Can you please, approve the script so that we
It's also,
I
people
don't.
don't happen.
And it's like, I have to approve everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I wondered what your thoughts would be about putting together.
Yeah, so I'm just a
Many
different.
things out.
But I mean,
Kathy and Mandy, are we ready to get back together? Is the board ready?
Yes.
Ready?
I think so. We're missing Jolene. Oh, there she is.
Kathy, do you want to, or does somebody want to sort of set up the camera the way it was originally for this operation?
Yes,
For the comfort of those viewing at home?
yes.
All right, thanks.
Mandy,
Do you mean, Bruce, that when you share your screen, people can see it? Is that your question?
So,
I think
okay.
they'll be able to see it.
Your view is actually different than the view that the people at home have right now. So, they will see what you share. You want to just go peek over there and make sure?
I'm creating the final document that'll come back to Kathy and can be distributed out. Down here, I pasted in your vision and mission, your current work, and then I identified down here the priorities that you have voted on this evening. And there's obviously more text needed because you identified some detail. But I wanted to show you
Help
that.
Natalie.
I'm also going to direct you to this particular worksheet. And let me label it to get it right so it's saved in the final document. And we're about to do what's called benchmarking. And this is where the board stays up at 10,000 feet and identifies how they want to proceed on these key items. So for each of these priorities we've identified, I have formatted a benchmark sheet. What we will do this evening is we will fill out box 1 for every one of the priorities you identified. So working at 10,000 feet, the board will head in and will say, here's what we would like to accomplish, here's what we want out of this when we're all done. Administration will go back and fill out box 2 and box 3. They'll put some detail in it so that the board continues to govern and administration continues to do all the design work. Administration will bring back each of these benchmarks to the board for review, possible edit, and eventual approval. And then that will be the blueprinting that you're going to get done to make these initiatives happen. So I'll take notes, but I've got one of these benchmark worksheets started for every one of your 5 priorities. So again, keeping the board at 10,000 feet. Board members, admin, tell us what you would like to accomplish if you are indeed a destination school. And could somebody, Manny, could you turn around and read us the detail on that sheet under destination school, just to jog people's memory?
Okay, we combined these two, right?
yes.
Okay, so safe, healthy, secure learning environment that celebrates diversity, hot lunch, clear bullying procedures, destination school, core knowledge school of distinction, like the Fort Collins model, respected school in the area.
Okay. So, what would you like to have? In a year or 2 from now, when you are a destination school, what will you have accomplished, everyone?
Wait
You're
lists
putting
at every
there
grade level.
What you want is the outcome, and the admin will build the blueprint to get there.
Okay.
I'm taking notes, will you start talking?
Wait list in every grade level.
One more time?
Wait list in every grade level.
Yeah, high academic achievement,
Test scores?
yeah.
Kathy, we also have that as a specific
Okay,
priority, but I'll put this in here,
okay.
and I'll also spell check this when we're all done.
Meeting the standards to achieve the label School of Distinction within the
Yeah.
core knowledge world.
Yeah.
Meeting standards
To be named a core knowledge School of Distinction.
One of the things, Kathy, when you mentioned the school in Fort Collins and how everyone reacts and responds when you're at that school, I think we might sum that up as demonstrated school pride.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it,
I love that.
absolutely.
want the kids to be proud that they go here. Tying it to what you said.
And teachers to be proud that they teach here.
Yeah.
I feel like you also said like the way you feel when you're in that school is the pride, but it's also you can just like feel that it's a well-oiled machine and you like know everybody is having the same goal. I don't know how to really describe that, but you can like feel that it's a safe and like secure and everybody's on that same mission.
And welcoming. It's nice to.
And it seems to me that if you're accomplishing that goal, then your school secures your school in a way, you know?
Anything else you want to put under the top box for destination school? But you can all see this, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good.
We had healthy, and there was just kind of, we kept it big picture with the idea of the lunch idea to get talked about. So I don't know if we want to add that into our
I would.
big picture goals. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think that's a 10,000. I think that's
Like
a.
healthy, or I don't know if like.
A wellness standard?
kind of
Like
just-
nutritionally healthy.
I don't think that's a 10,000.
No.
No. But overall wellness,
Yeah,
I mean,
which goes
if-
along with just like a well, like the secure environment, safe. Yeah. Students have what they need.
Admin, do you have enough in box one to start working on fleshing out box two and box three? Do you have any questions of the board or need any more guidance?
No, I think I'm good, but if I need more guidance, I can ask them separate later, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got safe, healthy, secure learning environment, CK school distinction, demonstrated school pride for staff and students, well-oiled machine, welcoming environment, diversity, celebration. So in addition to your notes, I've kind of got some of my own.
Yeah, excellent. Your second highest rated one was sustainable growth. And so there's actually two parts of that. There's sustainable and there's growth. So what would you like to see in the top box? What do you want to accomplish in this area?
adding the preschool.
One more time, please.
Adding the preschool?
Excellent.
We were discussing in our group just that the balance of like fiscal responsibility and operational excellence and wanting to just keep those well balanced. So not wanting to get so focused on the fiscal responsibility that we sacrifice operational excellence, but also not getting so focused on the operational excellence that we sacrifice the fiscal responsibility, just keeping them in balance.
You know, Nancy, I'll follow up on that. I want to give some credit to current and former board members in the admin because in all the time that we've been doing this, nobody has gone off about finances. And when you work with a school, be it a public school, be it a charter school, or a K-12 district, or a private school, and there have been financial problems, the fingerprints of that are all over the place.
Yeah.
So congratulations on having enough foresight to have done a lot of this in the past. But I'm happy you want to really keep that balance of fiscal responsibility and operational excellence out in front of everybody. That's good. What else would you like out of this priority?
I'd like to see a plan for if and when we're going to expand a high school. We're all very reluctant to get too far out ahead of ourselves. So a plan of one grade level at a time, that we're able to do some research on other area or schools in the state that have been successful with that, because I've heard of a few that weren't. So sustainable growth, adding a preschool, and I think that's the sustainable part. I don't think any of us want to go too fast and everything goes to heck.
We don't want to sacrifice quality
Right.
for quantity.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
grade levels, at least that we have right now, are maxed out, like the wait list, even just building our middle school to be at full capacity too.
Yep,
Yeah. 'Cause it's,
that's right.
What are your other thoughts about what you'd like to accomplish? I mean, you're not getting so specific that you're hamstringing administration to flesh this out, but what are your other thoughts about sustainable growth and this balance of fiscal responsibility and operational excellence? What else would you, I mean, would this positively affect your reputation with WLA and with other charter schools? Would sustainable growth be attractive enough to increase enrollment numbers? Are those all possible outcomes?
Yeah, I would say so, but I'd add to the thing that we really need to revise our organizational chart as we get bigger. So that will be one of the benchmarks of this, is to have something that makes sense for a school of 1,200, and then how do you get there, 1,000?
Okay.
Because the days of Nancy and I kind of doing everything kind of whipped by at some point. But, I've seen some of these schools that have 37 school administrators, and they have $3 million in funding for free and reduced populations. I'm not kidding you. I mean, but that's not our school. So we need to have a plan for our school that works.
Yeah, is it a lower school and an upper school with separate admins?
Something,
or
what is it going to look like?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any additions to box 1 on your sustainable growth for me?
Anybody? We're a quiet group tonight, but I feel like you're rushing us. Do we have anything?
What you're doing right now is you're roughing these in, right? You're going to get another look at those when they come back from admin with box 2 and box 3 drafted. The board then reviews them, asks questions, tells admin when they got it right, if they want to see adjusted. You're drafting your benchmarks now based on your priorities. Admin will come back with the next level of detail, and then you will either accept it, or edit it, or send it back for revision. So we don't have to carve these in stone tonight, they're working documents until the board accepts them.
Okay.
Can I add one more to sustainable growth? Maybe that's where we can kind of piece in marketing, or just a strong marketing plan.
Yeah,
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 that makes
good
sense.
call.
yeah, I like that. Got it. Okay, what's our number 3?
That is going to be
When he says admin, is that
strong academic achievement.
Andy?
It's me.
It's just you?
There'll be some opinions on this, right? What would you like to have as you
Ben Broderick, I'll pull him.
accomplishing this? What will you be known for? What will you have done? What will you deliver?
Core Knowledge School of Distinction.
See, but that goes back to our other one. We could just group this on.
Yeah, do we just put this under number 1, because that
Oh,
is
Destination School, yeah.
strong academics
Well, I
goes up
think
there.
if we wanted to, depends on how, I think if we wanted to, we could get really clear here, right? Like exceeding state averages.
I think that you'll actually make more progress by keeping those related but
Okay.
similar.
Okay,
They each deserve maybe their own fuel supply.
The
Okay.
things we kind of talked about under this one were like, consistent curriculum, the leadership, like coaching for teachers and making sure that teachers felt supported to support students. So having some of those systems in place to make sure that those background things were being done to allow students to be successful.
There was a little conversation and comment about core knowledge at the beginning. Did I get all the text, or is there additional text with core knowledge?
No, I think we can take that.
Just a minute ago. Is there anything else that needs wording there?
I think we were trying to decide if we wanted it to say Core Knowledge School of Distinction, but then I believe maybe we decided we had already covered that in one of the other benchmarks.
Is the core knowledge school of distinction purely academic based?
no, it can be all sorts of different sets of criteria.
Yeah, so it
Innovation
makes
is
sense
one,
to keep it in more of our general
right.
first one, and this
Yeah.
one's more tailored to
Yeah.
test. Well, I don't know if we have test scores on your notes, Bruce, but exceeding what?
State scores. Mhm.
Average?
Yep.
State averages for test score?
But then I really like what Shelby has said, make sure that we have things, the curriculum mapping, horizontal, vertical, everything's good, instructional coaches, curriculum coordinator, everything is tracking.
Kathy, so consistent curriculum and curriculum mapping are two separate items?
Yep, yep.
Okay, thanks.
So I know what to do with number 3.
Did you put leadership curriculum under there too, maybe? That just continued enhancement and integration of the leadership curriculum?
Yep. Could get that on there.
And I missed that last one, pardon me?
Oh, I said consistent integration and enhancement of our leadership curriculum. We have, Kathy alluded to it at the beginning, that one of our goals the last time we did this was to develop a stronger leadership curriculum, since we're a leadership school. And so we've started on that, and we've, for the first time this year, have a dedicated course to it, but we think it could use, it's the first year, so we need to just continue to enhance that.
And that, my comment was going to be that doing those sorts of activities also serves to distinguish us from other schools.
Yeah, yep.
It's great when you get to say, well, our school does this, and no other schools do.
Yeah.
That's right.
Got it, very good.
Thank you.
Could we, I don't know if this is how it's worked, but the training and support for teachers to be able to, gain academic achievement, just so that they're strong in teaching, like instructional coaches and just other supports that can be in place.
Yeah.
Is
Got
there
that
a,
down.
and this is a question for administration, is there like a teacher rating something to say, like our teachers are so good, they're the top of, whatever, I don't know, I'm just.
No, but we could
Does something
do
like
our
that
independent
exist?
thing. I mean, we could highlight that on our,
According to our study of one
According to
school,
our
we have the
study.
best
There is like a
teachers.
national merit teacher certificate that people can individually pursue, but it has nothing to do with their true teaching abilities.
But it would be fun to highlight different staff on your website,
Right,
each
like
month, just so
master's
stakeholders
degrees or
could.
Language spoken, like we have.
Yeah.
10
Right.
master level, I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I think it's
And,
interesting.
I'm just, yeah, like I said, I don't know, so I'm kind of making that up, but it would be great if we could highlight that.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
because clearly that's
Not
something
just
that
highlight it, But encourage it,
yeah.
and encourage our staff to seek it.
I mean, that's the first thing that parents called out on the survey was quality of teachers is great. Most
It
teachers
is.
are very devoted to the school and the students. So
Absolutely.
it's something that we know makes a difference and that parents at home can see, but there's not like a,
Yep, and that's kind of when we were talking about compensation,
Yeah.
it's not always just money, it's, what are we doing as a school community to help our teachers improve? Be really good
Yeah.
teachers.
Yep.
Admin, do you have enough here from the board to start to rough in some detail under 2 and 3?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Your next priority was community building, and there's a lot of detail. Could somebody turn around and read us the detail from the yellow sheets on community building?
community building, clubs and activities, cultural fair.
Okay. Board admin, what would you like to have here? What do you want to accomplish if you spend time and energy and money on community building, clubs and activities? What would you like?
I think we'd like a return to how it used to be before COVID.
Yeah.
We had a lot of assemblies, there were just so many family activities, and it was really, this school just blew my socks off with that. I mean, I came for the curriculum, as I said before, but really wanted to stay because of the staff, students, and families. I mean, the families, I don't know, just, I don't know how to say it.
How would you phrase family engagement or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I was, and this is just my common terms, but it's like make a big school feel like a small school
Yeah, I
again.
love that.
Because at the beginning, we were small, and it felt small, and you knew, there was a
You knew
lot of
everybody.
community. And as we've grown, and then we had COVID tossed in there as well, which made things really challenging to build community, but, yeah, it'd be nice to make it feel like a small school again, in terms of how well you know people. But,
So where do we hear that all the time?
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Never, nowhere,
Three of us
nowhere,
here.
So I think,
nowhere.
build community.
Just came up with it, Julie.
And I think that like clubs and activities do that naturally.
Yep.
People come to the basketball games,
Yep.
they sit in the stands, they
Yep.
talk to each other,
Yep.
they go to the plays, they go to the concerts, they
The
see each
pancake
other.
breakfasts,
Oh,
yeah.
do you want to get together
Yeah.
this weekend? So our kids,
Right.
like those natural things happen when you have clubs and activities for people
Right.
to go and be a part of and spectate. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think a lot of that happens naturally when you have those things.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Right, that's a beautiful outcome.
Yeah.
And I like the clubs
Mm-hmm.
portion of that too. Not every kid is an athlete, and they sometimes
Yeah.
feel, not necessarily a part of something.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was said well in here somewhere too, but kind of like engaging clubs and activities that meet the diverse
Diverse needs.
needs
all
of our
the-
students. Yeah, right.
Some
yeah.
of our females may not want to play sports because of the clothing issue.
Yeah, or males. Yeah, because they want to do robotics or debate or plays.
We
or-
take a student survey at the beginning of the year, and we ask teachers then, is anyone like a community expert in any of these things? Would you be willing to do a 4 to 6 week, one night a week club?
I love
So like
that.
we've had Rubik's Club, right now we have a 3D printing club, we have Heart and Soul Girls on the Run, we've had,
Wait, did you say you asked your family?
yeah,
Or-
the
that's
kids,
cool.
yeah. So we
Yeah,
ask
that's
the kids,
cool
like,
too,
what
yeah.
do you want to do after school? And then one night a week,
Right.
No, but who runs them? Sorry.
then we send it out to the staff and say, here's what our kids are interested in, do any of you know anything about any of this, would you be interested, and then we give them a stipend.
We do
Very good.
similar, but
Yeah.
it's a good
Nice to
thing.
get back to it someday.
Nice to get back to it,
I think
basically.
that community building, we need to say something about the new building, that now that we have the space, we have
Yes.
a place. Because
And the
we don't
parking.
have a place
Yeah,
now.
right.
Well, even like community in a bigger sense, like Woodbury, like we had been talking with the new building, like renting out that space and just even getting
Mhm.
larger
Yeah.
community.
I see.
Yeah, and this will be an activities or a admin decision, but when does it make sense to hire an activities director to really focus on these things? Yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
Admin, what else would you like out of this initiative? What would be some other benefits to the school, the students, to the families, the employees?
I think benefit to staff is it's an opportunity to make some extra money to help compensate where you aren't going to be able to pay them more to teach, but we have other opportunities where you can earn additional funds.
I think staff is pretty excited just about getting in this building, using the run walking track. There's all sorts of ideas going around with fitness goals and plans and
I would also say that like we have like external people like coming in for clubs, so I feel like there's so many resources where like staff might not be as motivated to do a robotics club after school, but even just seeking out the external
yep.
clubs and activities so we can just have them come in and serve our students.
Like our band director.
Band, yeah.
Like the YMCA,
Yep.
soccer shots.
Or the Ashland Productions, I think we did a play with Ashland
Yeah, that's
one
cool.
year. They did a wonderful
I didn't
job.
know about that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got Rembrandt's
Mm-hmm.
art classes right now going on.
And maybe have
Fun.
one here.
Yeah, we got a bunch there.
Started.
Yep. Forget you're there.
So we'll keep moving.
Okay.
Your final one, not the least important by any means, is fiscal responsibility. And what would you you like to accomplish here? Does somebody else, and could you also read any editorial
Yes.
under that priority up on the sheets?
Yes, there was kind of a lot on this one too. So exercise fiscal responsibility while maintaining quality facilities, ensuring competitive staff pay, and appropriating the necessary instructional and organizational supplies.
Okay. Knowing that was some of the original intent, board admin, what would you like in box 1 here? What would you like to accomplish as you work even harder on maintaining fiscal responsibility?
Typical requirements around VOA, like, percentage of fund balance,
Which is 20%.
cash on hand, meeting those financial metrics required by our authorizer.
What was our old one that had to do with, like our old strategic goal?
Will you read that one?
Create and maintain a strong fund balance, and at that point, I think it was in the teens, and we were headed towards 20%, which is what VOA wants. But now I think we're at 28 or 31%.
It was 27 on her report today.
But that has jumped because of COVID and some of the funding streams we had. So I just think it's really important that we continue to set reasonable budgets. I don't want our new facility to slide because we didn't budget appropriately, or we're turning over teachers, because, it's just a lot to balance. I don't know how to say that. We just need to continue to be smart with money, even as board members turn over.
Does VOA have a suggested fund balance policy with a range in it? Or
It's-
is that up to you to decide?
20% is our goal. So, yep, and we're currently at 27%.
And I think I heard today our recommended cash on hand was it 90 days?
I think it was 109,
What?
109.
That's what we were at.
Oh, recommended. Was it-
Something.
Yeah,
But just, I would
yes.
say it should be something along the lines of being consistent with our guidelines.
Yeah.
Should be also.
And then pass reasonable budgets. So VOA fund balance guidelines, and then make sure that we are always on track with our budgets.
Yep.
Not passing deficit budgets, yada, yada, yada.
Did you get that, Bruce?
But what did you guys have in mind when you did this one? Because I feel like,
Does yada, 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 is there 2 Ds in that?
Right?
yeah, I want to hear from your group what you thought of when you did this, because I felt like those are things we kind of have always done.
Well, I guess I would say it is getting teachers what they need to have a highly successful program, allowing teachers to feel confident to request funds to get what they need to have a highly successful program. Microscopes. Is it okay to do that? Is it not okay?
Well, what's the best way to do that? Make sure we're getting like tax exemptions.
Right,
save the money where we
right.
can.
Right. Because sometimes, I mean, I don't feel like, oh, I could use that and that would really help this program, but yeah, we probably shouldn't.
You want to
Request
come
that.
across as greedy?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
To me, that's fascinating, because I don't think that I've turned down any requests
No,
in
no.
5 years.
No, but still, it's like, oh, I don't know, we're teachers.
That's because teachers are always so
stingy.
conservative, and they're tight,
And
you know.
then, but I would say like too, like a teacher it's easy to go out and just buy it yourself too.
Yeah, and quicker.
Or buy like the easiest thing and then ask for a request back,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not the cheapest way to get it.
No.
I think there's a
Right,
lot of ways to save money.
I think,
Do you guys have to submit like budget requests prior to the school year, where you say, here are the things I'm going to need this year?
Yeah, we ask for all that before they leave in June, of make sure we have everything, and then stuff comes up, as you
I was
know.
kind of noodling that the other day and shot Nancy an email, just thinking about some basic things. But, I mean, is there a policy around that and I just didn't read it in my big book?
Yeah, it's the speak up policy. It's just,
But what if you encourage teachers just to pencil in like unexpected yearly expenses, $100, when your kids meet a goal and you need to buy popcorn, you don't have to pay for it yourself. When you submit your budget, give yourself $100 fund balance to be able to say, I don't feel guilty turning in this receipt. I don't feel guilty asking for the card to go to Walmart after school. Like, as a former teacher, you have that guilt. You know money is tight. You know that, you know, everything is getting cut here and there and everywhere, and you feel guilty submitting those requests. Like, I'm the one that promised them pizza, I'll pay for the pizza. But if you knew I have $100 at some point in the year that I can spend
Yeah.
and not feel guilty.
When
I don't think that's a
these
bad
treats
idea.
at home, you always ask me, can I eat these or are these for the kids? Are these for your kids?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw bond debt covenants
Yeah.
in there as well.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Ah,
Wow.
nice.
Very good.
You can know what they are.
That was the cash on hand, and that
That's
was,
funny.
yeah, it's a good way to wrap up the cash on hand.
I couldn't hear what was said, is that item belong to the bullet?
Oh, it was, meeting our bond debt covenants.
Meeting bond obligations?
Yeah.
Debt covenants.
There's covenants in our, yeah.
Operating agreement with
Yes.
WLA?
No, in our bonding, like, that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we went through a bonding process last summer, and so there's specific debt covenants that we have to meet, like a specific number of cash days on hand we have to have, and things like that, that we have to make sure that we exceed so that we aren't at risk for any, not meeting any of those covenants. And we currently are meeting all of them.
Right.
So we just need to make sure that stays the case. And our finance manager does a really good job of tracking those and making sure that we
That's true.
Very good.
maintain them.
But that's another one with
Any
this.
other stakes you want to put in the ground here about what you want regarding fiscal responsibility so that admin can build your blueprint that'll do it?
I just want to point out, or for all of us, we already know this, but, we can't stop our growth and wait for waiting lists at every grade level. We have to continue growing to keep up with our increased bond commitments. I think we have, our bonding stuff is based on 750 students for next year. And currently, Nancy and my best guess is right now we have about 726 that we're expecting. So I do expect that we'll pick up 24 between now and August. But, there's always that, we can't just put the brakes on and sit and wait. Because fiscal, we don't want all that coming out of the general revenue. Then all of a sudden, we don't have enough money to take care of our new building or to pay our staff what they deserve.
And that's kind of what I was trying to point out with that balance.
With that, yeah.
You can't just focus on one or the other.
Right.
Because they really do have to have both, yeah.
At the admin, do you have enough direction here on this one?
I do.
Excellent. Let me take you to the last worksheet in your packet. This is a board planning tool. And from here on out, the five most important things and the five things done first under old business before anything else are these five items. Right? These are the things that you said are the pillars that'll help you grow to be who you want to be when you grow up. We're going to populate the center column and the far right column. Let me give you an example. This is an example from one of my private clients. One of my private clients runs a body shop for over-the-road trucks, school buses, ambulances, that sort of stuff. And they look at this every morning as an employee group. There are 50 employees, all the way from people that turn wrenches to people that pay the bills. And they discovered through a salesperson that if they were to spray liquid nitrogen on a school bus, for example, that had the paint stamped off it, when they painted the bus, they would reduce paint costs by 40%. And paint costs more than people, so 40% is a pretty big deal. So they had liquid nitrogen booth in the center for 6 months. They were investigating it. And every morning, people would bring new information that they had. I was there one day when a guy said, my brother works at one of these in Mankato. And they said, well, what do you think? Well, my brother said it sucks, okay? They also investigated the payoff. The guy that was going to sell it to him said it would take him 12 months to pay it off. But my client's in Sherburne County, and my client said, we don't have the traffic they have in Hennepin County, so it'll take us 19 to 20 months. The items in the middle, you study on a regular basis, you look at more information, and you finally make a decision. You either do it and move it to the left, or you don't do it and it drops off. So we're going to start to identify some things that you want to continually make sure you're staying aware of, and you're investigating for potential addition. Considering are other things you don't want to forget that you've thought about or heard about from planning. So these go from left to right in terms of importance. Let's spend a couple minutes identifying some things that you might like to keep in front of you semi-regularly at board meetings that either board members or employees or administration are investigating, so the board can eventually make a good decision.
Would this be like hot lunch?
I think so. That's what I feel. I feel like hot lunch would be a good item to investigate.
What else might you take up?
How would you feel about
Marketing.
marketing? I was going to say pre-K
Yeah.
and separately from that high school, because I feel like those
Yep,
are two
for sure.
distinct decisions.
Yeah, looking into what it takes to set up pre-K programming.
Are these more specific? That's where I think I'm struggling.
Did you hear
Bruce,
that,
are we
Bruce?
doing this right? Do you want specific items like this?
Absolutely, because, by the way, marketing's important, right? It's not necessarily as important as strong academic achievement or maintaining fiscal responsibility, but it ought to be something that gets talked about, as practices brought forward, direction to administration about where you want to go. You are absolutely correct.
Okay.
Well, then would we also list, investigate which clubs are of interest?
Well,
Yeah.
we may not already be doing that. Or no?
Well, the kids have given lists to Ben Broderick, so, we're starting to get some of that, but I'll put that on the list. I think that's good.
Is that just middle
Is
school
this
kids or is
time
that
for
other kids too?
I
Expansion
don't
of
know.
clubs?
I'll put it on there.
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe just activities,
Mm-hmm.
because some might be sports too, but. Yeah.
Something I talked to Ben about the other week was I was invited to a breaking of the fast dinner at the local mosque, and invited as a guest, and we were going to try to go because that's the families. We've already got a certain population, and to get the name out there.
Yeah.
But we ended up not being able to go. But there's other community events that I know of that I think we should be at.
We,
Under marketing?
We,
as in
as a school, to be known in the community.
So you're talking about marketing?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I added human resource market rates. I'm doing a lot of analysis on that, and I think the board would be very interested in seeing what the, some of the market rates. We've got an ad hoc committee of employees that are looking at that stuff, and
Somebody was talking about religious holidays a minute ago, and I don't want to ignore it, I just missed it because I didn't hear it clearly. Do you want something on this column?
I don't think so. I think it was like a marketing idea.
Yeah,
So,
just, it was
yeah.
an event.
A way to engage with the community. Yeah.
We have something about staff. I didn't know if like just keeping a temperature on staff satisfaction or something. I don't know. Because we had that as one of our potentials, but we kind of got pushed, but I don't know.
satisfaction surveys, or?
Yeah, just making sure we're checking in and investigating, does this need a higher priority? Are we losing teachers and we need to focus more on
a
this?
staff wellness check-in.
This is kind of the time of year that we do that anyway, so
Right,
that's good. Yeah. And parents.
And then
so.
we definitely need to continue reviewing the preliminary MCA scores. Are really a mixed bag right now of why certain pockets are still not ticking up.
Kathy, one more time, please. Continue review of.
Formal test scores.
CA.
Yeah, formal test scores and what's going on with with some of those grade levels.
Yeah.
I think we need to have something about the clear bullying procedures, maybe updates as far as disciplinary actions, or if things come up that the board might need to be aware of, or I think that since that's the hot button topic of our community now, that we should have something down that we're consistently reviewing that, we are keeping that on the forefront. This is not a place that, I mean, I don't know how to state that, but.
Yep. We've actually done a lot of work since the last meeting on that, but it won't be presented till our next sort of regular board meeting. But yeah, I agree, that's
But
very
this should be
important.
on this list of things that we
Well,
talk
that's what
about.
I wonder, though. I felt like that would be something that's on the implementing part, because that's our priority.
Some of them fall under.
But I don't know.
Board, can I address that real quick?
Yes.
The board is the ultimate decider, to quote George H.W. Bush. If you decided to move pre-K design and implementation over to the left because you want it to happen now, you can. If you need to put something on here that wasn't visible or thought of tonight, you can. That's the board's prerogative. You want the board to do it in a rational and standardized manner. But we're creating our best guesses about how to do this evening. If the board ever wants to take one of these items and make a hot button that has to happen now, that's the board prerogative.
Can I ask a quick big picture question? So with this kind of format, there's no like end goal, we want to achieve these things in 5 years. This is kind of a fluid thing where we can kind of move them back and forth or take them off if we achieve them, versus before we had like a time frame that we were hoping, right?
Right.
Is that right?
You're close. Let me put some other words on it that might help. This is what you're trying to do, right? This is where you want to be. This is what you want to become. You've identified essentially your job description and your mission. These are strong. They're strong, but they're also easy to understand. And then tonight you said, look, here are the things that we're going to move to the front burner. So what you're doing with benchmarks is starting to provide some detail. You're saying, look, here's what we want out of this. Kath and I are going to be working offline later, and there are a couple of other worksheets that WLA could decide to use. One's a more detailed blueprint, one's this one, or Kathy may have some other goal sheets that she's used other places that she really thinks are strong. We've got to eventually be able to bring the blueprints back to the board and have the board go, that looks good, get started on it. So we've got some ways to put enough detail into this so the board can say things that are happening on time and are happening the way we want. But you'll have to see those blueprints before Ed Mills really starts.
Okay.
Can I add one more to the reviewing, like technology? Because I know our mission has like a technology piece,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's a part that's kind of different all over technologies.
So what are you thinking?
Available technologies to staff or students?
Students more so, just because it's in our mission as like, or our mission as just something that we're gonna focus on, and I feel like it is a tool we use, but it's not like a focus that I feel like my students leaving kindergarten like know how to take an iPad test in first grade or know how to take standardized tests. So
So we don't really have a technology plan of what kids are going to learn in each
how
area?
to use technology at different grade levels.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's good. Because we had media for a while, which was, that was kind of the thought behind that, was to, right, but,
Navigate things.
Does this look like it would take care of what you just said?
Yeah. I don't know where it
Okay.
belongs, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, yeah, and again, if 30 days from now, you determine that HR market rate analysis goes this way, but continuing to assess student needs goes this way, those are the decisions that boards have made. I get rid of a black lamp here. Please.
That was actually kind of a question.
Thanks. And you can see again these three types of future work. Could you get them up in a minute? Thanks. And again, we're not saying that these things in the third column don't have merit. We want to make sure they're a part of the record of planning. They just may not get quite the attention that something else gets.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else might go into this? This could be, has anybody thought about who's going to plow the parking lot next winter, or have we thought about some conference affiliation for some of our activities or sports to, have we done a needs analysis sufficient regarding admin structure? I mean, there's a lot of things you can put on here. Doesn't mean you're going to, when you're considering, it means you're going to keep them live and in front of you. They might not get the discussion that everything else gets.
Yep.
Any other thoughts from the original surveys or from the staff and community and student vision priority discussions? And you can see in those preceding pages that you don't want to lose track of.
I feel good about what we got.
I feel like diversity came up here, and we had talked about diversity, just kind of celebrating our diversity.
They've got up there in one of those.
It's under the safe and healthy and secure learning.
Already have it in one.
I do think it's under one of the implementing ones. I think it's under, yeah, this one. One thing that's kind of a, what about,
How many of you are you expecting to have in this column? I mean, is there a number we're looking for? Is it, I mean,
At this point, I'm never going to retire.
And to be honest with you, the far right column is going to be more fluid than the left column. The left column you voted on, you're going to build blueprints to it, that's pretty locked in. As you go further to the right, this thing's got some flexibility to it.
We're going to do
There's
these
no
ones
perfect
first.
number. I look, as an outsider who's been following and assisting with planning, I look at everything in the center column, and I'm like, I get it. I mean, I get why that's there. They're not quite priorities yet, but they were important enough to come up in other places, and so you're making note of those right there.
so we're doing the considering column, so things that are important but not as important as the things in the middle.
right? We're working our way from left to right.
You might not talk about them every month, but you're probably going to go over them quarterly, they're going to come up as needed. And you're welcome to stop right here, I'll just take the notes as far as you want to go.
I see a few communication things on here. We haven't really talked about communication much, but there was a couple, especially regarding like middle school communication, and just from the school as a whole versus from the teachers.
And I feel like some of the things in the middle, we might actually want to move to the right, because I feel like pre-K, I don't know if we're gonna check in with that every month. It might be more quarterly, like what steps do
Right.
we need to take, so moving that to the right. But communication being something that we make in the middle almost, because it's.
One quick note, typically what happens is, as new information becomes available about items in the middle column, they get discussed. Kathy goes to a couple of other districts or a couple of other charters and say, I picked up some really interesting ideas about pre-K design. I'd like to run it by the board at the meeting tonight for your update. The board wants to take action, do something they certainly can, but you're really just collecting information, making some subtle progress on this middle column and the right column.
Yeah.
Swimming pool, should we consider?
Swimming pool, please, please.
I see that it made the survey.
Should put an outdoor one.
Yeah, well, we talked about one on the roof.
Yeah.
But
Mandy, the audio was breaking up a little bit. Did I do something there to?
yeah, it was actually just a joke. So we have a running joke about putting in a swimming pool and where we would put it, and it made the survey again this year, so I just was kind of joking about that. We do not have the funds or space to be adding a swimming pool.
So Bruce, we have this, lots of things in the reviewing column. And then I feel like I can henpeck a few of them at a time and start doing research and then bringing it to the board. And that's when it goes in the considering column? Or are we doing?
Kathy, you talked to a couple of other HR people within charters and pre-K-12 districts, and you think you found a pretty expedited way to do an HR market rate analysis?
Yeah.
And maybe you bring that to the board in August. I bumped into somebody this summer, and I think it might be time to actually start to move on this.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is use that benchmark worksheet, because I believe we're going to be able to do the market rate analysis fairly quickly and in a cost-effective manner without unduly burdening administration. If the board goes, let us do it, you bring that benchmark worksheet up, you have them fill out box one about what they want when it's done, and you and admin start to plow through it.
So would it almost be the opposite then, Bruce? Like, should we move some of those things over into considering from reviewing? Because Kathy's not going to be able to go review all 9 of those items right now. So should we say, here are the 3 things we really want you to review, to start looking at, and move other things over into considering? And then as she checks things off of that reviewing list, we can take some of them off of considering and move them over to reviewing.
It's almost like an A list, B list, C list.
Yeah.
So A is like, these are the priorities.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's true, but I also think, and I'll be the first to say this, you're not telling Kathy to do everything in the middle column right now.
Right.
What you're saying is, we want to keep these in front of us as a school. As information becomes available, as opportunities show up, we're going to get more information from you, and we as a board will decide what to do. So it's not like Kathy's number one job and administration's number one job is to build the blueprints for the implementing work. That's really her job, and to run the school. As information becomes available or opportunities emerge, she can keep you posted, and you can say, well, if that's the way you want to do hot lunch, it seems to be fiscally responsible, let's go ahead and get started. But it doesn't mean that Kathy has to do everything in the reviewing. That's just, you don't have enough admin to do. And Kathy would have a hard time getting all this stuff done.
Which is why it almost should be narrowed down to what we see as the next step.
Well,
Would you like to do-
yeah. What would you guys keep on it then? What would you, if you had to pick your top, I don't know, what do you think, 4? What would you keep on it?
I'd pick HR market rates, because we're doing contracts right now, and you're all going to be ratifying them.
Okay, so HR market rates stay.
Like marketing needs to stay, but I know we might have that another one as well. I don't know if there's a bit here too.
What about hot lunch? I can certainly find out about hot lunch. It came up a lot.
The thing is, though, I think you can pause on that one for now, just because we can't implement it right now anyway.
Right, okay.
But eventually, we're gonna wanna look into that. I'd like to maybe have some idea about hot lunch before the start of the school year. If
For
right.
the next school year?
For the next
For next school year?
So you want hot lunch for next school year, or you just want an idea so that the following year? Is that what you're
If we want,
23-24 season is what
if we want to think about for this coming
wanna
year,
know?
we need to talk
gotta
about it
start it right
soon.
now?
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
if we
then.
push it
Okay.
back a little, yeah.
All right, the third one that I'm going to pick is bullying and discipline, because that's a hot topic right now, and we've done a lot of work on that in the last month, so I think that's,
Did you move hot lunch then?
yeah, so front burner, we've got hot lunch, let's get some facts on the table for you guys, the HR market rates, performance expectations, and then bullying and discipline. What else? That's 3 things.
Kathy, are those the 4 you just identified?
Those are 3, I'm kind of looking down the plan.
I heard market rate. Actually,
Well, I would say maybe satisfaction surveys, not because they're any more important than any other ones, but just time-wise, I feel like if you're gonna do that, now would be a time to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And for parents on staff, because that's part of your evaluation. Okay. We've got 4 that I think are doable within a short time here.
Did I bold the right ones? Market rate, voting policies, staff satisfaction, wellness data, and hot lunch, are those the 4 you want to keep in this column?
Is hot lunch removing or not?
No, it's
How-
staying.
We're not, I
It
guess.
would stay, no, it would stay.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
stay.
Yeah.
As we want
Yeah.
higher priority.
Yeah.
Sorry, you sounded disappointed, like it was
No,
supposed
no,
to, yeah.
I was just underestimating the amount of time it's going to take to,
Pull it off,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you.
Yeah,
you're gonna
we'll
do
get that,
outside
we'll get it going.
contracts.
So Bruce, I'm sorry, the things that I have are hot lunch, the HR market rates, satisfaction surveys, bullying, and discipline. Is that what you kind of have? I can't see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
Trying to highlight those 4.
So I feel like technically the non-bolded ones would kind of move to the considering.
Isn't
Or-
like marketing part of one of our benchmarks? So won't
Yeah.
that get touched on? Like, do we even need it in these other 2? If we're already gonna be like reviewing, because the next step is for you to come up with like action items, right, Kathy? Like things we're gonna do to meet.
Maybe we can wait and see how much it comes up on your action items.
Mhm.
I assume it
Yeah,
will come
yeah,
up, it's
yeah.
under sustainable growth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could wait and see.
All right, is that looking better then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good suggestions.
Yeah.
And again, the board, you're creating a draft document tonight. Let me put it back to Mandy and Kathy. When would you like to see detail on those benchmarks and review these again? Please go easy on it and don't say next week, all right?
I would like to hear your suggestion on. Oh, no, it's beautiful.
Very nice. Yeah.
What do you think is reasonable, Kathy?
I would say a month. I would say a month, but I don't know when the next board meeting is
I
going to
know,
be.
so that kind of segues into, maybe we can, kind of segue into when we're gonna meet next. Is that okay, Bruce? Are you, is that?
It is, Mandy, can I make one other question?
Yes.
Are you answering that? So, I really believe that your priorities need to be touched on at every board meeting, right? These 5 items that you really identified as your pillars, these are unbelievably important. And so the board needs to be updated every time the board meets about those. That's a portion of the board meeting. To go through the rest of it typically happens in more of a working session. You know, as you look through those other items, you're not looking at fiscal reports, you're not authorizing expenditures, you're not authorizing personnel action. So do you have the luxury of a board work session or a meeting of the whole once a month where all you do is one item? Or is it just one board meeting a month or 2 board meetings a month?
We traditionally have just done one board meeting a month, but we can do a work session. We can add a work session to focus on one thing.
Well, I would encourage you to consider it. Let's just say you decide you're going to have a 1-hour meeting as a work session once a month, and you want to talk and hear more about kindergarten or preschool options. You can invite in other speakers that have done it. Kathy can have some staff investigate some opportunities and bring it to you. It allows the board to sort of focus on the ongoing development of the school, not necessarily governance. And governance is important, without it you fall apart. But I want you to get even better at paying attention to these new blueprints you're making. So think about that as you develop your schedule.
At the city, when I was on council, we had 3 council meetings a month, and then 1 workshop meeting. And some of these things, I mean, they had to go up to a workshop session before we could even possibly,
Vote on them.
send them to advisory committees or vote on them. So we did find the workshops.
That's too much.
We do a work session, our school board does a work session prior to every board meeting. So from 4 to 5, they do a work session, and then the board meeting starts at 5. From 4 to 5, they have typically 2 to 3 things that they have questions about. The whole admin team is required to be there to answer questions. It is open to the public. There's not public comment, but it's open to the public. And then at 5 o'clock, the board meeting starts. So a lot of the like discussion and stuff that we have in our board meeting is already then done and taken care of, and the board meeting is that much quicker. I think if we were going to look at moving to something like that, we would need to look at how we could simplify our board meetings, because I don't think staff or
Yeah.
families want 5-hour board meetings.
I agree, and one of the suggestions that I would have for the board is, the finance committee looks over finances very well. So can we just do the executive summary of the finance portion?
Yes. I also feel like we're provided all of that information, and it's our responsibility as board members to review it. And if we have questions past what we're being presented,
Right.
we have that opportunity to ask, but we don't need a 20-minute financial report every time.
No, and there's certain triggers that, would require a bigger review, like annual audits,
Right.
budget proposals,
Correct.
things like that.
Correct.
But on a monthly basis, I don't know that we need to go through every single last detail of the financial report. And who is it? Who's our new finance person?
Bridget.
Bridget.
She's been doing a much better job just focusing on the high levels for
Yeah.
us, and that's
Yeah.
been really helpful. Because I go through them all anyways,
Right.
so.
But I do love that model where you have your working session and then your, and I even feel, odd when I'm doing the director's report, because I assume that everyone's read it, and now I'm saying it to you guys that already know it.
Yeah.
I feel like we can trim the fat of a lot of things,
Right.
where like parents can even just read the executive director report in the packet, and then it's almost like, I feel like we have our work session like during the meeting. And
Yes,
that's what
we
we
do.
And like, yeah.
And as much as I love like seeing the kids' videos, that's something that you could send out in the family bulletin and say, celebrate these kids' success.
Right, right.
I mean, it's not like the kids are here and we're talking to
Yeah.
them and saying, good job. They have no idea, they're not at home watching our board meetings to
Right.
see that we're recognizing them. So I think like, as nice as it is to see those showcases and things, like there's a different platform for them that's better fit. And I mean, there's 9 people watching this meeting on YouTube right now.
Yes. Right.
So
Right.
if you put it on your Facebook, you're gonna have 492 people that liked it, get a notification that says, check out what our 5th graders are doing this month as their showcase.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's lots of things
Yeah,
that
very
we
good
do
point.
that I'm like, they're great, but I don't know that the board meeting is the proper platform.
Well, and I feel like if some of those other pieces are kind of shifted around, or even like the executive director is shortened down, then the work session could be, or the board meeting could be more focused on like the work session stuff that we would do, where we go through the strategic goals during the board report or whatever, and do talk about that, and that's like the biggest talking.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is all good to hear. I think we should kind of reformat a little bit. We brought in those kiddos, just so that some of our non-teaching board members would really remember what was in front of us, but I don't think it's gone particularly well.
And we bring them in so that the parents will come to the meeting too.
Yeah, but then it's been so much video and,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I agree with you on that, but you're pretty quiet. What are you
No,
thinking?
I'm just listening. Yes.
One other item that I'll bring up. You guys have a pretty aggressive vision and mission. This is not pedestrian stuff, and you are working incredibly hard at getting this done. Work sessions are also times where boards can reflect on the operation and growth of the board. And I don't know if you've taken some time on that now, but as you're looking into expanding, you're taking on a bigger operation. And it would be okay for the board to do a self-check or a checkup, using some pretty commonly available tools, and you may be already doing them. But as you guys get really, really big at what you're doing, I want you to continue to grow as members so that you use your time effectively and don't burn out board members. Really,
Yeah.
right there.
Yes, if you have a tool, we try to do a reflection or self-evaluation each year, but if you have a tool that you have used that you think is a good one, we are always looking for the best way to do that.
Well, there's 3 ways to do this, right? First is, how is the board doing on the plan? And you ask Kathy, the admin, because if Kathy goes, we move faster if you guys can make decisions quicker on this, that's feedback to the board, right? You also have a job description for board members, correct?
Yeah, we do.
we should be able to identify how the board is doing individually collectively on that. And then third, there's the sort of other stuff, so you've already got the metrics, or the framework you have, the plan, the job description, and the other stuff. But I would like to give boards time quarterly or semi-annually to take an hour work session to talk about how the board functions and bring other ideas forward to make it go better.
Okay,
It's not just like having a good tool, it's having a conversation.
yeah.
Like what we just had, is that what he means, like where we talk about things we could adjust?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Okay, I am opening it, I guess I worry that we're just gonna be here for the same amount of time. We're just gonna call part of it a work session and part of it a board meeting, which I think is fine, but I just feel like we're kind of doing the same thing, we're just calling it two different things, but,
Well, I think like if the discussion is more focused on these during our board meeting, like our strategic goals, then it'll be a productive conversation rather than a 20-minute finance report, you know, like
Yeah.
just using our time wisely.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
still be here for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
It will just be more focused and feel like we get more accomplished in
Okay.
that 2.5 hours.
Okay, so I hear less videos from the kids, use a different platform for that, and a shorter, more succinct financial report, for starters.
Yep.
And then, and director's report. Yep.
And in the work session, if there is something big that is in the director's report that you need
I'll
to
certainly
prep us
highlight,
for,
yeah.
or whatever, you put that in the work session. Like, just so you know this happened, and you are, you know, like the investigation, for instance, like, this is what is going on, that would be a work session item.
Yep.
If, I was just thinking, you know, the videos and whatnot, and I was just thinking back to the reason that we started doing that in the first place. And I'm wondering if there's an alternative, and maybe an alternative might be each board meeting, a member from Parliament attends and gives a very short student Parliament update. Like we give a director's update, like we give a board update.
They do like a state of the school.
Yeah, just, and they can switch.
In person.
Yeah,
In person.
In person. And their
In
meetings
person.
are right before our board meetings. If we added a
Yeah.
work session, it might butt up to their meeting anyway.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great idea.
okay, let's try that for a while.
We did
Yeah.
it for community building.
Yeah.
With us,
Yeah,
where we
right.
do more community building for
Right.
other things and board members will propose. Things that need.
Good.
Okay. We can start that.
So that's for the admin, I guess, to figure, because I don't know who runs council or
Fourth grade teachers, but yeah. We'll get that on.
Okay.
Sounds fun.
Okay, so let's talk about, or Bruce, are we okay to talk about our next board meeting? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move into our next board meeting and so tonight there was a lot of business that we didn't get to cover because we focused our time on this, had this work session instead. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is the fourth Wednesday in May. So the question is, do we table all of that until that meeting? There's a couple of possibilities. Do we schedule another board meeting between now and then? And it might depend on what kind of pressing items you have. Or do we potentially move up the May meeting and kind of meet in the middle, kind of kill two birds with one stone, and then not have one on May, I don't know if it's the 25th. Okay, yeah.
Are your
So-
teachers getting antsy for contracts and such? Do you have?
The budget, they won't get ratified till June anyway.
So teachers won't get contracts till June.
I don't think they ever have.
Usually we can, it's like early May.
Yeah, but it's not ratified until June.
Oh,
So this is what we're planning to give you. Trust that the board is going to ratify it.
Right.
But then they pass the budget, which then it gets ratified. So you get a heads up, and this is what it looks like. This is your amount.
Teachers to be like,
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
we're out of here.
Right.
Yeah, worried,
Time
yeah.
to look.
Yeah.
No, I feel good. I think I'd feel better reporting out on some of these things, the benchmarks, if we were doing it the third week in May. I'll speak personally. I think it's a big ask to ask the board members to meet twice in May, especially with Memorial Day. the all-school carnival. It's just a very busy month.
Apex Fun.
So I would say have it the third week in May or the fourth week in May. And either way, I could be ready, but I could not be ready in 2 weeks if you
Oh,
were going
sure.
to have 2 meetings.
Yeah.
But that's
And I
my,
wasn't necessarily expecting to report out on those. I was just thinking, we'll have, 2 months of governance committee, we'll have 2 months of finance committee and facilities committee and whatever else will be on the agenda. But
what do you guys think?
thoughts?
Is it typical, I guess Bruce too, like the typical then just to talk a month later about like all the things that the admin does? Or is it typically a longer timeline for them to get all those worked out?
Did you ask me that again?
Yeah, so the benchmark sheets, like is the timeline pretty typical to be like a month where it's brought back to the board? Or is like a longer timeline make more sense for that?
Well, I believe we asked Kathy, and Kathy suggested 30 days to bring it back. Would that make sense?
So you're good.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. So maybe,
Because what you're going to ask them to do is to fill out box 2 and box 3, and the board should be able to go, hey, I see what you're going to do in step 2. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you can change this form. So you could change this to 15 days, you could change it to 60 days, you could change it to 90 days. The idea here is that the board can specify what they want, and it helps keep admin moving along. Not that admin doesn't have enough to do, but to become a destination school, we don't expect that to happen within 30 or 60 days.
Right.
But if admin said, here are the 4 activities we think we ought to get started on right away in box 2, then the board could say, oh, well, if you got those done, we should be able to see these in a report 60 days out. Right? It just kind of helps create some alignment between the work that's done in box 2 and what the board expects to see.
It would just end up being a big May meeting, like it's that will probably take a good amount of time. Double committee minutes.
So I think the question is, do we want to have 2 meetings in May, like a May 11th, where we go through all of the April committee meetings and such, and have all of that put out and done and over with before we go into May's, since we've missed all of that for April?
Yeah, versus having like a 4-hour meeting.
Yeah.
I'm fine with whatever the group wants to do.
I am open on Wednesdays in May, so if we do 2 meetings, I don't have any conflict.
So Wednesday the 11th would be when we would have finance committee meeting.
oh yeah, we have to move it then.
We could do the 18th and the 25th.
Well, we meet finance committee at 4:30. I mean, if we keep board meeting at 5:30 and we
Roll in.
hustle through finance, we could get it done.
Yeah.
I don't know that it'll take that much longer to do 2 months of, I'm thinking of like facilities committee as an example. I don't know that it'd take that much longer to do, not that much more. I think governance will be the one that is the most,
Yeah,
because we
I
just
think
reviewed
governance is
financials
the one,
tonight, so.
And my biggest thing is families are gonna
Yeah.
be looking for answers
Yeah,
from
right.
last month. And
Yes.
I don't want them to feel like we're
Yes.
just putting it under the rug by having this meeting tonight
Yes.
and not acknowledging their concerns.
Yep.
So I guess I don't know what the vibe is on a day-to-day basis with parents right now. Are they still, we wanna know what's being done, or are they like, we're good with moving forward and we trust that you're going to get back to us? Where's the heat level, I guess,
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis for you guys?
Yeah, I would say on a day-to-day, people are trusting that we're going to provide them with answers, but I agree with you, the sooner the better. And part of one of these meetings will be a closed session, so it might be better for the board to meet twice.
And then if we're gonna have, I don't know if it's still a plan for Andy to go over referrals and like RTI to present
Yep.
and EL, like, and kindergarten. Yeah, 2.
2, sounds like 2.
Jason, Jolene, are you good with 2?
Sure.
That's fine.
If we do it on the finance, like after the finance meeting, I think that, let's roll into it.
Okay, okay. So I think I hear that we're going to do essentially the rest of the April meeting on May 11th, and then at 5:30, and then we would do the the typical May meeting, May 25th. And we would not expect to have much of the benchmarking stuff done by the May 11th meeting, or any
And
of
when's the
it.
next one, the May 25th?
May 11th and May 25th,
Okay, and we'd have benchmarks done by May 25th.
yes.
May 11th will be likely catch up, and then
Yep.
maybe some closed.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Okay.
Did we cut you off? Bruce, we kind of got ahead of ourselves on the agenda. Is there more to accomplish yet tonight?
You have completed your strategic plan in the draft form. Admin's got some work to bring back to you, your satisfaction, you are on the way.
Okay.
Nice work.
Wonderful.
Oh, feels good. Okay. So let's move into board communication, future agenda items, reflection. Anything to
I'm gonna check
share?
out.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Kathy, I just mailed you all the documents from tonight. I emailed you and Mandy a suggestion about how to use WLA. And then Kathy, you'll start to receive videos, or 2 to 3 minute videos, and then to keep you on track. So here's about how far you should be at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. You'll receive those from Natalie.
Okay.
And just so you can share them with Mandy or share them with.
The other Natalie.
Okay.
Nice
look.
Yeah.
That was a nice look.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
His coworker is also Natalie. Do you remember that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good work tonight, you guys.
Yeah.
Yep. We got a lot to do, but it's gonna be good.
It's
Yeah.
good. We get organized. It's kind of a quiet, it's just kind of a quiet group tonight, but we got a lot done.
We did a lot of talking.
Okay.
Okay.
Next regularly scheduled board meeting, 5:30 on May 11th, and then May 25th, and then we'll have a whole new group of members that we'll bring on and seat new people, and it'll be good. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to adjourn. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you all.
Everybody.
Did I steal your pencil? Sorry.
I'll take your playing cards.
No, you're good. Me either, so I'm not gonna offer to help you.
Shelby, we need to go out and have dinner.
Yeah.
And so that I can hear more about.
Where are we going?
More about what you guys are doing that we can do here or make sure we're doing here.